I have to admit, Miss Bristol, I had my doubts about this whole venture, but I'm impressed with the work you've done, and in so little time, too." It was Sarita Rodriguez who spoke as they reached the first floor, the youngest city council person, and, from what Mara could tell, the most in tune with matters of business. The others had asked plenty of questions about the renovation and her plans for the future, but Sarita's inquiries were much more detailed. Though most of the changes they'd made were cosmetic, were structural renovations needed as well? What factors had determined the Everwood's room rates? Were they competitive with other B&Bs? Would she be hiring additional staff? Mara gave Sarita a grateful smile. "I didn't do it on my own, that's for sure." Not even close. In this past week, the Everwood had been a buzzing hive of activity. Any time they weren't at their jobs, Janessa and Sam and Lucas had been here. Marshall had pulled 13 or 14-hour days every day this week. Even people from town had stopped out now and then to offer their help. Mara had met more of the Walker family, and though Drew Renwick had finished the new porch last weekend, he'd come by with his brother one morning to help Marshall replace shutters and install flower boxes underneath the front windows. It was almost as if now that they remembered the Everwood was here, the people of Maple Valley were drawn to this place, to this tucked-away, once-forgotten house that had slowly come alive again. And never in her life had Mara felt more a part of something, more like she belonged, like someone had carved out a space here in this town, in this house, with these people, just for her. Maybe someone had. At least, that's what Lenora believed. To Lenora, God wasn't just a distant creator, interested only in the people who impressed him most. She believed God guided her steps and gave her life meaning and purpose. What if Lenora was right and God had led Mara here? What if he'd never been waiting for her to impress him, but just to notice him, active and at work in her life? Mara led the council members through the dining room, where a lacy cloth and place settings covered the nicks in the long table, and a new light fixture hung overhead. She pointed out the framed historical photographs Marshall had given her that decorated the walls. Hopefully, Marshall was ready out in the backyard, because it was time for the final stop on her tour. The council members followed her through the kitchen, out the back door, and Mara gasped as she stepped onto the small patio. She'd known what Marshall was planning out here, but she'd been so busy inside that she'd hardly glanced out the windows. The sight of it took her breath away. Lanterns dangled from tree branches and sat atop each round table that dotted the freshly mowed lawn. Light ropes traced both sides of the walkway that led from the house. The magnolia tree near the garden shed was in full bloom, some of its snow-white blossoms falling with the breeze and dusting the grass underneath. In one corner of the yard, near the roped-off garden, Marshall had set up a movie screen where they planned to show one of the old films they'd found in the attic. Lenora would have loved this.
"You, Mara Bristol, are a miracle worker," Mayor Milt said, his gaze sweeping over the sprawling yard and the townspeople beginning to gather. "I think we can safely say this is a rousing success."
"I really can't take all the credit. So many people helped, and the weather cooperated too." The April sky was painted in gorgeous shades of pink and violet, and a warmth that could almost pass for summer hovered in the air. Even the trees had seemed to anticipate this event, buds opening into leaves practically overnight. Marshall had a few heaters and a portable generator on hand, just in case it cooled down too much in the evening, but so far it didn't feel like they'd